You're listening to the Adventurous Reinvention podcast. I'm Allison Boyle, aka She Dreams of Alpine, and this is the show that's dedicated to all the adventurous spirits out there who have either been transformed by the outdoors or are interested in what it looks like to step into a new, adventurous, and courageous kind of identity in their life. It doesn't matter what your background is in the outdoors, what age you're starting at, or where you grew up. If you're curious about the outdoors and using adventure as a way to reinvent yourself, you're in the right place. I'll be sharing all kinds of personal adventure stories, lessons I've learned from the mountains, teaching what I know about the outdoors and leadership, and interviewing some amazing adventurous women all along the way. I've been coaching women on becoming safe, confident, and self-sufficient backpackers and leaders of their own adventurous lives since 2018, and I know exactly what big fears and self-doubts can pop up along the way. I have so much to share with you, so let's dive in. Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the Adventurous Reinvention podcast. You are listening to episode 22, and today we are going to dive into something that I know so many of you wrestle with, especially if you are dreaming of finding your people, you're dreaming of building friendships with other adventurous women, and you're putting yourself out there more this year. This episode is going to be all about choosing to belong on any adventure that you join or you sign yourself up for or you get invited on, because for so many women, the excitement of making adventure friends does come with this sort of double-edged sword, right? It comes with this big dose of fear and anxiety and self-doubt. There is the fear that you won't fit in. It's the fear that maybe you'll be the slowest one in the group. Maybe you will not get invited back, or somehow you might be rejected. So if that's you, if you've ever worried about any of those things, if you've ever hesitated to join a hiking group or sign up for an adventure experience because you were afraid of feeling out of place, or your brain is like somehow convincing you that you just don't belong, then this episode is for you. But before we dive into today's episode, I want to ask you something. Do you feel truly alive in your life right now? Or have you been feeling like so many people I've talked to lately? Do you feel like you're going through the motions? If that's you, you are not alone. I've been having so many conversations with people that just feel stuck right now. They feel like things have been heavy, like they aren't really living, or at least not in the way that they imagine they would be. They want more for their lives, but instead they're feeling burnt out. They're feeling trapped in their routines. They're buffering with distractions like social media scrolling or Netflix binging, but they can't seem to get out of that cycle. And they find themselves like waiting for the right time to chase some of their biggest dreams. So one of the things you're going to hear me start to talk about a lot soon is this concept of aliveness. And aliveness isn't something that you wait for. It's something that you create. And waiting doesn't create change. Action does. And that is exactly what we're going to be doing this summer inside of my program, the Adventurous Reinvention Experience, which if you haven't heard about this program, I've talked about it before, but this program is a 4-month transformational journey where you will really get to re-engage with your life. You're going to get to break through patterns that have been keeping you stuck. You're going to get to step into the strongest, most awake and alive version of yourself. This is like that same feeling that many of us get from the trail, that feeling of being alive and engaged and challenged and excited by all of it. That is what we're going to be doing inside of this program. This program is not just another coaching program. It's a space to really step into your personal power, to take action on the things that you've been avoiding, to stop playing small and finally go for the adventure, the confidence, and the freedom that you're craving to create in your life. And in this experience, we don't just sit around and talk about change, we actually live it. So all summer long, in addition to all the internal work that we're going to be doing, we're also going to be training physically, mentally, and emotionally so that by the end of this journey, you're not just dreaming about having a more adventurous and alive life. You are actually going to be living it. We are going to be taking everything that we work on in the program and bring it to life with an epic in-person backpacking adventure in the Eastern Sierras. So by the end of this, you won't just feel stronger mentally, you'll feel it in your body too as you step into the confidence of a capable and self-sufficient outdoors woman. Because I know that growth doesn't happen in your comfort zone. That's why I want to take you on this grand adventure of internal kind of personal growth work and that external work, right? This growth happens when you show up, you stay present, and you learn to walk through the hard parts. So if you are ready to shake things up this summer, break free from the chaos and heaviness of 2025, if you want to wake up excited and engaged and powerful in your own life again, then this is your official invitation. So enrollment for our Adventurous Reinvention experience will open in April, but our wait list will get first dibs. So we only open this program once a year. Spots are extremely limited. We only have 24 spaces. So if this is calling to you or you're interested to learn more, make sure that you get on the wait list now at shedreamsofalpine.com/ARE. That's shedreamsofalpine.com/ARE. I will also link that in the show notes. Again, doors open in April. Spots will go fast. If you're tired of waiting and you're ready to step into your most alive, adventurous, and unstoppable self, this is your calling to do so. I cannot wait to kick off this year's program. I just know it's going to be our best year yet. So I just wanted to put a little kind of side note in here in our episode about this experience because enrollment is opening soon and I just don't want you to miss it if that's something that's been on your heart. All right, now back to today's episode about choosing to belong on any adventure. So the first thing that I want to talk about is the fears that hold us all back, just to kind of like normalize all of it so that you know that you're not alone in this. So I have these fears all the time and I hear them all the time from women inside of my programs. So this kind of sounds like a voice in your head. It's kind of like this whispering voice. It's like, what if I slow everyone down? What if I can't keep up? What if I don't fit in? What if I'm too old for all of this? What if I'm the oldest one there? What if I'm the youngest one there? What if I show up and I feel awkward? What if I try to make a connection with someone and they ghost me? What if no one talks to me, right? If any of these sound familiar, I just want you to know it's very normal if you are human, having the human experience, to worry about these things and be thinking about these things in your brain. It's so easy to let these thoughts that we have convince us that it's safer to just stay at home and not risk the rejection or the embarrassment or the awkwardness of all of it, right? That it's maybe better to go hike solo or avoid signing up for the group trip. But when we do that, we actually cut ourselves off from the potential friendships and community and really living that adventure-filled life that we actually want. But I know that it can feel so hard because it feels like our brain is in such conflict with itself. It's like wants this thing, it wants this connection, but it's also really doubting itself. And it's really scared, right? There's this survival brain that you have, that we all have, right? That is really kind of primitive survival brain that tells us it's not safe to put ourselves out there and risk rejection. And then we have this other side of our brain that is like our desire that is telling us, but I want this. I want to find my people. I want to make community. I want to belong in this adventure. I want to have extraordinary experiences for myself and to challenge myself and to surprise myself, blow my mind on what's possible, right? So how do we move through this? How do we listen and honor our desire when our survival brain sounds loud and in charge and is taking up the show in our brain, right? And it feels like it's calling all of the shots with how we respond and react. So the first thing that I'm going to just say here is this all starts with choosing to belong. So I have a personal example that I want to illustrate this, and then I'll kind of go into it deeper and explain it a little bit more. I had to do this exact thing that I'm talking about when I moved to Colorado in 2022. I found myself in this really similar position where I had been traveling for 3 years with Michael. We had been living in our van, and I was kind of tired of traveling, and I really had this strong desire to create a community and have more friendships and more community and stuff like that. And something that I commonly identified with is being a shy person. And so sometimes I let that like identity that I associate with keep me from doing things, right? So sometimes that side of me, it will feel really scary for me to sign up for things and to put myself out there, which I know you listening to this might find that hard to believe. You're like, you have a podcast and you've built this business, but like I have practiced being extroverted for a long time now. So I'm much better at it than I used to be, but I still, with personal relationships, I still find this scary, just like you do, right? So basically, I also find it really scary to be a human in the world and be going up to make adult friendships and being like, do you want to be my friend? And like putting myself out there, risking rejection, all of those things. But I also know that part of that is just like me being out of practice with asking people to be my friend. I feel like when we're younger, we do that a lot. And as adults, we kind of stop doing it, right? Especially as remote work has become more popular and we don't have to like put ourselves out there quite as much. We're just out of practice. And a lot of times we're also taking ourselves way too seriously. So one of the things that I did when I first moved to Colorado is I started looking up for local groups that maybe shared similar interests to me. I eventually found this women's mountain bike association that somebody had told me about. I was at the time in 2022 very brand new to mountain biking, like not good at all. And I had a lot of anxiety around mountain biking because I felt like I sucked at mountain biking. I had this really bad kind of fall where I split my eyebrow open from mountain biking back in like 2016 or something like that. And I was just embracing the idea of maybe getting back into it. So I found this local mountain bike group association. And of course, like I was excited about it because I was like, that's really cool. Like there's this women's mountain bike group that I could join and make friends maybe. But also I was really concerned about being the worst one there because I was like, okay, I'm going to be the worst one there. But then I had to remind myself like, okay, so what? Like you're the worst one there. Why does that matter? This is literally supposed to be a group that supports newbies. So I did have to have like that conversation with myself. So I made the decision to belong there, to belong with that group, even if I sucked at mountain biking. And I just said to myself, like, I suck at mountain biking and I'm showing up anyways. And I just chose to belong, even if I was going to be bad at it. Like, who cares, right? And I did suck sometimes. Like I fell, I was still learning a lot. I had rejection in the pursuit of new friendships. Like especially, this took me a while. Like I think the whole mountain bike kind of season is kind of May through September for that particular group in particular. And I remember the first few months I kept going to group rides. And I would like introduce myself to friends and be like, hey, do you like want to ride again sometime? And people would always say, they would always be nice and like say yes. But then when I would, maybe get their number and then like hit them up in the future, I wouldn't hear back from them or it kind of fizzled out or like it would be really hard to coordinate things with them, right? But I just kept going and I just kept asking people. Anytime I made a good connection, I was just like, I'm going to keep asking people if they want to be my friend and they want to keep hanging out and they want to, like go on rides. Because I was thinking in the back of my mind, like, what's the worst case scenario here? The worst case scenario was that I didn't make any new friends, which is exactly where I was at the beginning of the season, right? Just trying to make new friends, trying to make connections. But I'd probably get better at mountain biking, which was at least one step up from where I started. But the good news is because I was persistent in it, I did make one of my best friends that lives here in Colorado Springs from that group, from putting myself out there. I remember, this is my friend Alex. We were on our group ride together. It was the first time we'd met each other. We were both like, yeah, I'm brand new. I'm still learning. We had really similar stories. She had a really great energy and she was really eager to find other people to ride with more consistently. And so we got each other's number. And she showed up and she participated and she engaged with like the invitations that I was sending her. and we became really, really good friends. And it ended up being a really meaningful connection and friendship for me. So listen, I get it. Rejection is scary. You do get better at it though. Like the more you invite people and they say no, and you realize it's not a big deal, you kind of learn to roll with it, right? But it's especially scary because our primal kind of like instinct is to want to be accepted into a group. This is how we used to survive. It's like our survival brain. But today, that like survival instinct isn't really serving us anymore, especially when it comes to making new friendships and connections as adults in this modern era, right? So in order to belong on any adventure, we really, really have to embrace rejection as part of the process, because rejection isn't a sign that you don't belong. It's literally just a filter. It helps you find the right people. It helps you find your people, your true, meaningful connections. So choosing to belong, like I know that can sound really kind of like general, right? So how do you actually do this? How do you choose to belong? How do you decide that no matter what, no matter your age, your background, how shy you are, how inexperienced you are, how awkward you might feel, like how do you decide that you belong regardless of any of that, right? So there are like 4 key things that I want to talk about for you to remember in the process of choosing to belong. So number 1 is don't count yourself out before you even try. So many of us do that. Like we talk ourselves out of things before we've even tried. Being too slow or too old or too inexperienced or too anything. These are stories that we are telling ourselves in our head. It doesn't necessarily mean that's true, and it's not a good reason not to go. I'm laughing because I don't know if you can hear the pitter-patter of little puppy feet running behind me, but we're rolling with it. Okay, like I was saying, we have literally all been there. And the right people, the right group will call you in no matter what. If you want to be a part of a group, sign up and show up, right? Don't let your brain convince you that you're an outsider just because you're new, just because you're older. Maybe you don't have the most experience, or if you're worried about being slow, like still like give yourself the chance to have an experience, to maybe blow your mind, to maybe make a connection that you might not make if you count yourself out before you even get there. So number 2, my second piece of advice for choosing to belong is sharing your anxieties with other people. I find one of the best ways to process and move through my fear and my social anxiety of being like maybe bad at something or worrying about being too slow at something is just to bring people in on the conversation. And so here's an example of what that might sound like. And something like I probably, maybe not word for word said, but like something similar I've said when I started mountain biking with this group. I would like tell them like, hi, I'm Allison. I'm nervous. I'm really new to mountain biking, but I'm here. Like I'm excited to learn from you all and like to do it scared, right? And I find just kind of being honest with people really brings people in a way that like allows them to support you in the process, right? Because they've all been there. We've all been the new person. And a key distinction here that I just want to make is like not apologizing for it. Like I'm honoring both my fear and my desire in the way that I said that. And so many people that I talk to, a lot of times they'll have an insecurity and then they'll apologize for it. We don't need to do that. There's space for both our anxiety and honoring our desire to be there. We don't need to be sorry for anything. A discussion that I frequently have with my clients that join us in the Adventurous Reinvention experience when they're feeling nervous about their capability in comparison to other women in the group is that I like to remind them, like, what better place to have an experience like this where you feel nervous, but you know you are like well supported in the entire process. You're supported emotionally, you're supported physically. Like our literal job in that program is to help you like blow your mind in this process, to hold space for you even when you're doubting yourself, and to remind you what a badass you are, even if your brain is like literally yelling at you a different story. Like that is our job, is to really support you through all of the mind drama and get you to the other side. So I always like to remind them, like, I understand you're feeling nervous and you're unsure about yourself, but like, trust me and let's keep going. Let's make that next step. I remember like, we had last year gone through our coaching program. We were meeting for our in-person experience for our beginner groups. And so many of the women there, they were like, I almost didn't come because I just got so nervous that I was going to be like slowing everyone down, or I wasn't cut out for it and like I shouldn't be there for some reason. And I was like, I'm so glad you didn't listen to that voice. Like, I'm so glad that you chose to still come and trust me and be in this process and like share that with me so we can do it together. And we had like the most amazing experience. And so many of them were just like so impressed with what they did and what they accomplished, things that they never would have thought. They raised the bar after the trip of like what was possible for them. And if they had not, done that, they would have missed out on that experience. So I just want to really encourage you to like honor your anxiety, but also like your desire to be there and keep showing up. Number 3 is be willing to feel awkward or rejected, and be willing to feel any of those negative emotions that come from stepping outside of your comfort zone. So deciding ahead of time that you can handle the rejection, that you can handle maybe being the slow one, that you can handle feeling awkward, this is literally the key to everything. You have to decide ahead of time to be willing to process that negative emotion that you might experience in pursuit of your desire to create community and friendships and changing your story about all of it. Awkwardness, like rejected, embarrassed, these are emotions that we are all capable of handling. Like, if we break it down, the emotions, the negative emotions that we're so scared of, these are literally just vibrations in our body. So next time that you experience one of these emotions, like rejected or embarrassed or awkward, like sad, any negative emotion, I want you to become kind of like an observer of the feeling in your body. So for example, like if I feel fear or if I feel sadness, like I often do this with myself, like all the time. So I'll be in it, having the very human experience and feeling of sadness and fear, and it feels awful, right? And then I'll be like, wait, what does this feel like in my body? So I will like step out of myself in the moment, like maybe being really sad about something, and I'll kind of step out of myself and be an observer of like what that feeling feels like in my body. I'll start to connect with it, like connecting to a tightness in my chest, an ache in my core, like these sensations that we have in our body when we're feeling these different emotions. And that's when I can like really start to connect with processing an emotion and like really kind of connecting it with it in a deeper way, honestly. And I felt sadness, and I felt grief, and I know what that feels like in my body. And I also know that I can handle that emotion. I can hold space for that. I've had fear, like really hard fear, like even in the mountains where I've been like I remember being on the top of Mount Rainier and just like panicking. Like I had to go down what I came up. And I had a moment where like that feeling just kind of flushed through my body. And then I got to kind of like witness it as an observer. I'm like, whoa, like that, I felt like more alive than ever because I just like really witnessed that feeling, that sensation in my body. And then I also survived it and knew I could handle it, right? So reminding yourself that an emotion is a sensation. We can do this with rejection. We can do this with embarrassment as well. We can do this with awkwardness. Like next time you feel awkward, maybe like you count yourself out of going to like meetups because you're like, well, what if I don't have anything to talk about and it's awkward? Like this is an emotion that we're scared of, right? Awkwardness. Like, what does that feel like? And really just think about embracing that and exploring it and getting curious with it, and remind yourself that you can handle those sensations. It is such a gift to give yourself this sort of like experience. And finally, choosing to belong. Number 4 is to take that first step, right? sign up for that hike, show up to the group event, join that big out of your comfort zone experience, invite someone along on an adventure, say hi to someone new on the trail or go to a new event, right? Ask another woman, hey, like, do you want to do this again sometime? Like I did in my mountain bike group. Like each time I made a connection, I was like, would you like to ride again? I asked, like, I just made myself ask that at the end of every ride with somebody that I connected with. And I asked for their number and did those things, right? Be willing to do those. The friendships and the community that you want won't just magically appear, but they will happen if you keep putting yourself out there. And here is a fun thought exercise for you, like maybe something to journal on later. But what if I told you that you're going to find your dream community and your dream friendships, the ones that you've been like looking for all along, the ones that you get to go on extraordinary adventures with, right? But what if I told you you have to spend a year like literally doing the work, putting yourself out there, experiencing rejection, experiencing awkwardness in order to find them a full year? But you do find them and it's incredible and you can't imagine your life without them once you've met them. Would it be worth it to you? Would you go for it? That's just like something to think about. And I think sometimes we do it once, like we'll put ourselves out there once, we feel rejection or whatever that emotion is. And we're like, nope, that was horrible. And we don't do it again, right? But we need to be willing to do this over and over again in order to kind of like find that true connection that we're looking for. So at the end of the day, belonging is something that you create by choosing to be in the room. You're showing up here, you're listening to this podcast because you want more for yourself. You want more adventure in your life. You want more meaningful friendships. You want to feel like you belong in these spaces. So my challenge to you is this, like decide that you do belong. Like say yes to those adventures, sign yourself up for them, right? Be willing to be the new person, accept that rejection and awkwardness and all of those negative emotions are part of the journey, and keep showing up anyways and decide that you belong. Okay. Now, before we end this episode, I reached out to one of my clients. Her name is Lauren. She is one of our Backpacking Badass students and was part of our Adventurous Reinvention experience in 2024. So that last year's experience. She is actually the one who really inspired this podcast episode and its message. So I reached out to her and I asked her if I could share a short clip from a coaching call that her and I did together during the Adventurous Reinvention experience program. And Lauren so graciously agreed to be vulnerable and let us share some of that here on the podcast. So I'm really grateful for her for letting us do that, because I think so many of you are going to relate to how this feels, how real this conversation feels, how real that fear and that anxiety feels of like the stories that hold us back. Because Lauren and I had like a really open and honest coaching conversation around this. And I really think that you might benefit from exploring the coaching that we did there. So some of the coaching that we did do in this conversation was on a whiteboard, which you can't really see on the podcast. So there might be short sections that don't fully make sense, but I do think that you'll get the gist of it. And it's super powerful. So I'm going to stop talking now and I'm going to play that recording. So here we go.
There's none of my friends my age that do this stuff.
Right.
So
a desire here is maybe creating that community for yourself.
Yeah, perhaps. Because I keep going back to that same devil, like, oh, you're too old. Why are you doing this?
Why? What's the answer to that question?
Why? Because it's fun.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because it's fun.
It's challenging.
Is that like not a worthwhile reason for you?
What the heck? Yes, of course it's a worthwhile reason.
I'm only asking because it's almost like you think there needs to be a better reason.
Well, I think I want to be better at this. I want to keep doing it. I want to, I took a friend on one of my trips. I took my daughter on one of the trips and I planned the whole thing and I, you know, mapped it out on Gaia and I had my Garmin and I
Yeah.
really researched and it felt so good to do that. And I want to keep doing stuff like that.
Right.
And I don't know where to lead me, but I'd love to even do it with maybe people I didn't know,
Right.
but come on, you just turned 60
Isn't
and
that so interesting, actually? You were like, I want to keep doing this. I want to be better at this. But
yeah,
your thought is like, I'm too old.
yeah,
It's almost like, what's the point?
yeah,
And oh, what is the feeling that you told me earlier? You said disconnected,
yeah,
which I feel like is the feeling that's kind of coming up with this.
yeah.
You can tell me if I'm wrong, because backpacking outdoors thought is, I'm too old.
And
What's the
then the
point?
disconnect
I
is
feel
like,
disconnected from this like backpacking, like me whole thing, right?
right,
Ironically, the action is like, I mean, we can put a slew of things in here, probably to the effect of like not doing stuff, like not creating community, not learning more, not getting out. Result in this model is I don't keep doing this. I don't get better at it, which are two things that you told me that you want.
right, right. So if I go
So,
back to the like, why would I limit myself? That's
right.
I can't
Or like,
find
why? What's interesting here is like, why do we even think this is worth paying attention to?
I think perhaps because I don't have any friends my age that do this stuff.
Okay.
I mean, I try to get people to do stuff with me and they like, oh, they just don't do it. And so I think, gosh, am I mean, I don't really say, am I not supposed to do this? But I do, the thought comes to my mind, Lauren, are you crazy? Like, are you pushing yourself too much? Or
Hmm.
I can't put my finger on it, but maybe because I'm not connecting with other people my age, I feel a little bit like an outsider looking in the window and
Right.
wanting to be a part of something that I really don't belong in, maybe.
Okay. So, all of those things that you just said, that's optional to think. Like, I just want to bring you back to that. This is a choice, right? You mentioned, I don't have any friends that do this.
Hmm.
That to me is just an obstacle. It's just one of your challenges.
Yes, like I looked at was looking at your pictures and it looked like you did a biking group with a bunch of women.
Oh, yeah.
Like, did you know all those women?
No, I knew
Like,
none of them.
but just putting myself out there to do those
Okay.
things, when I have done a few little things like that, I'm like the oldest freaking person there.
Right. And you're making that mean it's a problem instead of just being like, and
Yeah,
yeah.
you're right.
I
My
see.
mind knows that, but my heart doesn't make the connection.
Right. Because I mean, we've always been taught like we have to like keel over and not do anything for ourselves once we turn,
Right,
40,
right.
right? Like we shouldn't just keep living our lives. Like women are always taught that message. Like we're kind of like losing our worth as
Yeah,
we
that's
age.
exactly
Such
it.
bullshit.
Yeah, because my biggest fear is not being significant.
Mm,
Uh,
right.
like being that grandma sitting in the chair and people feeling obligated to come up and talk to me, but really I'm not that interesting.
Isn't that so funny though? Because like that's your biggest fear. And yet when you think about signing up for things and being the older person in the group, you're almost shying away from it because you like, even though that's you being like authentic to yourself and true and like showing up and being that interesting badass older lady in the group, like,
Right, right, right.
yeah,
Gosh.
they're like in conflict. Isn't that so like
In
fascinating?
conflict,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I think like you can totally create this
Uh-huh.
and, you know, have this reality, but you definitely got to drop the whole, you have to stop entertaining the like, I'm too old. Like, why am I even doing this?
Right.
because that thought isn't serving you towards this.
No.
But it feels safe. Like there's some part of you that like obviously finds safety in it, right?
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm getting something out of it.
Yeah, you're getting something out of it. And I think that's also important to recognize. So that way we can be like, we don't have to like be mad at it for being there.
I think what I'm getting out of it is I'm getting out of not experiencing like when you said you got rejection because you
Right.
had things go right and
Yeah.
then if I were to get that kind of rejection, I would immediately go, oh, it's because I'm
Yeah.
older.
It's because I'm too old. I knew it.
Right,
Right.
right, right. I knew it. And so it probably serves me because it doesn't allow me to pass that starting line
Right.
in a way.
It's,
And yeah,
yeah, it's just protecting you in that way. And we can kind of see it. We can kind of release it. It really, truly is just a decision,
yeah,
but it can be hard. So I always find like it either happens like this for me, like a thought, like I see it clearly. I'm like, oh, I'm doing this to myself.
right,
And then it's easy to just be like, I'm not doing that anymore.
right,
Or it takes a lot of like, oh, I did it again. This is fine. Nothing's gone wrong, but I notice I did that
right.
again. Like, I don't know. There's just when I hear you talk about it, like thoughts that come up for me, I'm like, there's so many ladies. I know this because we have over 1,500 women in our community now. There's
Yeah,
so many women that feel like they're too old. They don't have community of women that want to do this with them. And I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so many of y'all. Like you do, like
yeah,
there's so many of you out
right.
there who want to do this. And there are probably so many women that are sitting here with your thought,
Yeah.
I'm too old,
Uh-huh.
but I wish,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And they will see you like stepping into like, I'm old, so what?
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
I'm older, like, who cares? Like, I'm
Right.
not gonna like just keel over and die. Like, I'm gonna live
Right.
my life. Like,
Right. Right. And
and
I
they're
don't
gonna be like
really, yeah.
attracted to that.
Yeah. Because I
They're gonna be like,
really don't just want to do some of the things that people my age do. Like I'm not, to me, it's not as fun. This is
right.
really fun. So then when I'm working backwards like this,
Mhm.
what do I put in for F feelings?
Yeah. So when you're thinking about those actions that create
Yeah.
that result, what do you think, what feeling is going to drive those actions?
To sign up, what feelings?
Yeah. Like, how would you need to feel to be like, I'm just going to do it scared. I'm going to reach out to new people. I'm going
I
to
guess
put
I
myself out there.
I would want to feel pumped and enthusiastic and
Yeah.
excited. That's how I'd want to feel.
Pumped, brave, courageous, exciting. Like, these are feelings you can play with.
Yeah.
And then what thought do I need to think that's going to make me feel excited so that I take this action and create this result?
I would want to think that I'm old, yeah, but I'm badass,
Yeah.
or I'm older, so what?
Yeah. I'm older. So what? It's like, it's not a problem.
Right.
And like, I don't know, maybe also, maybe part of in building your community is I want to be an example that like, I don't
Mm,
have to just, you know, do this
right.
one thing. Like I can be this badass, like older lady. Like maybe that's something that drives you. And for the record, I don't think you're an older lady, but I mean, like that's a thought that keeps coming up for you.
Yeah.
So it's
Right.
like, just play around with it. Okay, y'all, that is it for today. Thank you so much again to Lauren for kind of letting me share a vulnerable, like little behind the scenes peek at the coaching that we did together. I know that it's going to be helpful for so many people, and I hope that today's episode landed for you. Maybe was the message or the encouragement that you needed to choose to belong on any adventure, even if you have anxiety and self-doubt around it, like I want you to remember to just like not count yourself out and really give yourself the chance to have an amazing experience and meet people that you are going to connect with. And before we put the final touch on wrapping up today's episode, I wanted to give you one last reminder about our Adventurous Reinvention Experience program, which is opening up for enrollment very soon in April. And I want you to imagine yourself like standing strong in the mountains after a summer of massive personal growth, surrounded by an incredible group of women who get it, who are there to support you and are going through the same things. And that is exactly what's waiting for you if you choose to join us in this year's Adventurous Reinvention Experience. If you are ready to wake up, go after what you want, to take an epic adventure in the Eastern Sierras with me and a group of amazing women, then this is your time. Spots are limited and we are opening enrollment very soon. The waitlisters will get first dibs at spots. So you can learn more and join the waitlist at shedreamsofalpine.com/ARE. Okay, that's it for today's episode. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next week. Bye. Hey, I wanted to thank you real quick for tuning into the show and listening all the way to the end. If you love this episode and you want deeper support in becoming a safe, confident, and self-sufficient hiker and backpacker, then head over to shedreamsofalpine.com/waitlist to learn more about our Backpacking Badass coaching program, where I teach you absolutely everything you need to know to be self-reliant on the trails and stop waiting around on others for the adventure invite. So I'd love to help you more in your journey of stepping into your adventurous identity, and that program is the absolute best place for us to start working together. So again, that's shedreamsofalpine.com/waitlist, and you can learn all about it there. So that's it for today, folks. I hope you get to spend some time outside this week, and I'll be back very soon with a brand new episode. Bye.